We are at Epcot. It is the very first day of the International Food and Wine Festival 2022. We are going to eat, we are going to drink, and I'm excited for some of the new items. So let's get started.
The most wonderful time of the year, it's the first day of the Epcot Food and Wine Festival 2022. The festival runs July 14th through November 19th, and while it's missing some of its previous attractions like guest chefs and dining events, the music is still going on at the Eat to the Beat concert series, and of course there are the food booths all around the park. We've got a boarding group for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, so we're going to find our way to the left of Spaceship Earth to see if we can find some food before riding. Alas, several of the food booths don't open until August 15th, and that includes these two. There's Mac and Eats, which has the awesome cowboy mac and cheese. Lots of flavors here with the smoked pork belly and burnt ends, and plenty to share. A great deal at $6.25. Coastal Eats also not open yet, but when it does open, I'd like to hear how the new Oysters Rockefeller option is. Another currently unavailable booth is Noodle Exchange. These are all noodle bowls with different proteins, and they all sound very authentic. And I'm a sucker for anything with an egg in it, like that pork udon, which looks to be a good price at $5.50. What was open in the area, though, was Flavors from Fire. We've had the smoked corned beef before and are getting it again because it comes atop crispy chips and beer cheese fondue. You might have to fight over the chips with the melty cheese on it because it is so good. The new banh mi bao was a nice combination of flavors. Didn't find it spicy, wished it was bigger or had more filling. Watch out if you don't like the cilantro. And you can't not get the swine brine to drink, but where's the piggy wing?
They didn't put it on the stick, and they were having an argument over that.
In front of Test Track is the brand new booth, the Fry Basket. Unfortunately, it was like the surface of the sun that day, so we chose to bypass the fries because the line was long and fries are hot. The fry flight did sound interesting, especially the sweet potato fries with the marshmallow and pecans, but in the end, fries. Having still not been called to help save the galaxy, we headed for some air-conditioned relief nearby. It's Brew Wing at the Odyssey. Last year we tried the garlic parmesan wings, which were soggy and flavorless, but I'm always hopeful, and there are new wing varieties to try this year. Of course, they also have lots of beer and cider to go with your wings, and flights are just $10. The options are light, refreshing, and great to cool off with, like the strawberry hard cider, which has just a hint of the fruit, nothing overwhelming, and the blood orange IPA is great to cut the fat from the chicken. First up, it's the sticky PB&J wings, and it's a delicious peanut butter and grape jelly sauce on these. Then the dry rub jerk spiced wings. You may want to grab that ranch dressing because these do have a kick to them. And lastly, there's the Brussels sprouts. We'll come back to these. $7.50 gets you 6 huge wings, and that's a great deal anywhere these days. Make sure you grab napkins because the sticky wings are messy, but so worth it if peanut butter is your jam. The jerk wings start with a sweet sugar, but then on the back you get the Caribbean spiced heat. Lovely. These sprouts, though, over-fried and soggy and no vinegar or lemon to cut the fat. Skip those. Boarding Group 77 was called around 1 p.m., and we are off to see the wonders of Xandar. Cosmic Rewind is a great addition to the park with its not over-the-top thrills and lots of Guardians humor. Even if you get motion sickness, it's worth trying once. Afterwards, time to check out the festival merchandise in the nearby Creation Shop. Both of these shirts are pretty cool, but I have a bunch of Food and Wine shirts already. Then there's the annual pass holder merchandise. Okay, if I was an AP, I would totally get that t-shirt. You're going to need to show verification of your AP status to get this stuff, like these fun pins, tumblers, or these mugs. Onwards to World Showcase, and we are going clockwise today because someone wants a frozen margarita ASAP. The first booth we come to is the Saucy Swine. I still like to say that from last year, Saucy Swine. I'm full from the chicken wings, but we might come back later for the new pork shoulder lettuce wrap with the charred corn salsa. That sounds yummy. Next up is Mexico. I rarely get food here because I'm not a fan of corn tortillas, and the tacos and other items are usually on corn. We're going to get our frozen margaritas at the stand in front of the Mexico Pavilion. But I'm looking forward to China. There's always something good there, and today we got the Mongolian beef bun, the dan dan noodles, and the fireworks drink. The drink is pre-mixed fruit juices that they pour the liquor straight on top of, so be sure to stir it up thoroughly, and it can be strong. The bao is just beef and onions inside, but the bun is perfectly steamed and the meat absolutely tender. I'd skip the dan dan noodles though. The spicy pork is fantastic, but it's sitting on basically a big bowl of plain spaghetti. And once you start eating, the ground pork gets lost, so unless you want to eat a whole bowl of pasta, you miss out on the good stuff. Right outside of China is the India booth. These are all new items, so it's good to see the crew tweaking what does and doesn't work from year to year. Moving on, the refreshment outpost is ahead, and there's an option if you're a vegetarian. The Gatheri has white beans, pigeon peas, quinoa, and grains topped with a slaw at a nice price. Kenya is nearby in a well-themed booth that calls out to the straw roofs at Animal Kingdom. Some nice options here. Underneath some fancy descriptions, you've got steak and grilled shrimp if you're looking for something slightly adventurous. I'm saving the Alps booth for later, so next is Germany, which has a perpetual crowd. It's got the flavors you'd expect with a noodle casserole with ham, onions, and cheese, also bratwurst and an apple strudel. This is also another place to get a beer flight for $10. The booth for Spain comes before we reach the Italy pavilion. I'm going for the charcuterie pictured in a cone, and while it's actually been in a cone before, this time it's in a cup. I'm not as much impressed this time, because I got one green olive, one black olive, some prosciutto, and then a lot of this dry cheese and crumbly, spicy sausage. I ended up throwing the rest away. We've made it halfway around World Showcase and are at the American Adventure Pavilion. The Barley and Hops booth always has something fun like a lobster roll, and it's got a good number of covered picnic tables to sit at as well, so it's always a festival favorite. This year they're offering a crab slider, and of course we had to get that. And I want to say I've had that carrot cake before, and it was moist and the icing was plentiful. And I have my sights set on that Boom Sauce double IPA beer.
All right, now you're in it.
The video or
It's not the video.
Oh, okay.
That's the video.
Glad to see cast members having a great day.
Yeah.
The crab slider was well worth the $7 with lots of big chunks of meat, the tangy coleslaw, and the soft bun, all combined to make it a winner. Alright, time to take a break from the eats and the heat.
Now it's time to seize the day. Mexico and don't delay. Wrongs will be righted if we're united. Let us seize the day.
First feet down, 2.5. Picking up the thrust. Four forward, drift into the right low. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. We copy you down, Eagle. Tranquility base here. The Eagle has landed.
The American Adventure never ceases to entertain. Okay, back to business. We're heading to Japan, which usually has some interesting dishes. This year we're getting the teriyaki chicken bun, the octopus takoyaki bites, and the yuzu lemon drop to drink. The chicken bun is tasty and what you'd expect, although I'd like some more soy, ginger, garlic, or something to kick it up a bit. The takoyaki was unusual, but nothing unlikable. It reminded me of conch fritters with tiny pieces of slightly chewy octopus inside of the soft, doughy balls. I don't feel like I had an octopus dish, if you know what I mean. The flavors were new. The lemon drop was extremely lemony tart, but a nice surprise was the tiny bit of sweet lemon fruit gel candy at the end. Next to Morocco, you'll find Belgium with its namesake waffles, but if you want the beer braised beef, keep your fingers crossed because they ran out when we were there. And another beer flight for $10. Another booth that usually has a really long line is France, which is odd because I don't think the dishes would appeal to most people, so I guess they're there for the drinks? There's the dish people love to hate, the beignet with 3 cheeses, which we got, as well as the new escargot item and the passion fruit martini slush, which was amazing.
Cheesy and snaily.
Ah, the beignet. On paper it sounds good. I wasn't thinking too hard when we got it, and in my mind it was the cheese fondue and the bread bowl we've gotten there previously. Whoops. More on that in a second.
Oh. Okay.
I have to say the martini was so good that it made up for it though. It's fruity, it's cold, and I'm glad we got 2 at $12.95 each. And 3 plump escargot, a delicious creamy sauce, and a flaky pastry. What's not to like? Even if you don't like snails, go ahead and try it.
Okay, the beignet thing with the cheese, not great. That's a lot of dough, and it's sweet-ish. But the cheese inside, like the cheese on top, was good. The stuff inside was like cheese gravy. Not the best. It might storm, but we're going on Ratatouille.
And it did rain, and it lightninged, and it thundered, and it rained some more. But unfortunately, many places had closed, so we weren't able to get anything from Ireland, like that delicious chocolate cake. I can still taste it from past years. The refreshment port was open, offering up 2 versions of poutine, and who doesn't love what is basically loaded fries? It's a little pricey in my opinion, though. You can eat like an Aussie. Sweet and spicy bushberry shrimp or roasted lamb chop for $8.25, and a wine flight for $6.50 is available. Shimmering Sips is further on clockwise and is mostly about cocktails that include sparkling wine, but there is something else though. We'll come back to that in a bit. The last booth to not open until August 15th is the Hawaii booth. The Kahlua pork slider is another festival favorite with the pineapple chutney on top of pork, and then there's the nod to the islanders' love of Spam that dates back to World War II. You'll find Earth Eats on the path to the Imagination Pavilion, and it has meatless options like the Impossible Burger and Impossible Meatballs. If you've noticed, we've turned around and are heading back counterclockwise because we have our sights set on Canada. It isn't a food and wine festival without a cup of the cheddar cheese soup, although I remember when it was $4 and not $5.75. Oh well. We're also getting the wild mushroom beef fillet. The soup comes with a small pretzel bun, and if you like, you can just dip the roll into the soup and eat it that way. If you want to make a gallon of this stuff at home, and who doesn't, you can easily find the recipe online. Now, if you don't like mushrooms, I don't know if you should get the fillet, but maybe this dish will sway you. The combo of the mushrooms and the fork tender steak, I mean, that almost makes it worth $9.25. We passed by Brazil before, but it's definitely worth a stop if just for that Brazilian cheese bread, little puffs of dough with melty cheese inside. Inside the Tangerine Cafe is Flavors of the Medina. It's kind of a hidden gem, and there's some inside and also outdoor covered seating. They offer falafel, Moroccan bread, and chicken and steak kebabs. We had a steak kebab last year, and I definitely recommend it. It was well seared and flavorful. Now I had to go to Greece for one of my favorites, the griddled cheese for $4.75, and I also got the lamb gyro priced at $6.50. This cheese is fantastic. You've got the ooey gooey and the slight tang from the cheese, the crunch of the crust and the nuts, and the sweet of the honey. Perfection. The gyro is what you'd expect, although smaller than you'd hoped, but the combo of the lamb, veg, and sauce are a nice few bites. One of the extras at the festival is a meals fromage montage, also known as the Epcot cheese crawl. Inside the festival guide is a page with 10 cheesy items from the various menus. There's also space to get stamps from the cast member when you buy one of those items. When you get 5 stamps, you can head to Shimmering Sips for a special treat. We're running out of daylight, so it's off to the Italy booth. I've learned not to have high hopes here because the food is always adequate and the pricing sorta high, so don't disappoint me this year, Italy. Don't disappoint me. You disappointed me. I mean, the gnocchi here were fine. The cheese sauce was kind of mild. I wanted more mushrooms, and $9 just kind of seems high. All right, maybe next year. Finally, we're off to the Alps to get our last fromage montage stamp. They have several versions of raclette here, which all include the cheese and either potatoes and ham, potatoes and no ham, or poached pears and fruit. And of course, there's also a wine flight for $6.75.
Oh, thank you.
In case you don't know, raclette is the kind of cheese, but it's also the way it's served. There's a big hunk of cheese melted under a broiler, and then the melty part is scraped off and given to you. So you're getting a big puddle of warm cheese, and what could be better than that? This is the version with the pears and figs, and I like the slight funk of the cheese with the fruit. A little lighter than having the version with the potatoes and meat, and it would go great with some of those wine choices. Time to get our treat for collecting stamps, and it's a strawberry cheesecake Dole Whip with a piece of cheesecake in a collectible plastic festival wine cup. Nice.
Okay, well, the weather caused a little havoc, so we didn't get to everything we wanted. It was 1,000 degrees in the afternoon. It was raining and storming later on. So we had some old favorites. We tried some new things. Overall, it was a good day. So yay for the International Food and Wine Festival at Epcot.